Hi everyone, long time no see. I apologise for my little hiatus on the channel. For the end of November into the middle of December, I was actually on a trip to visit my family in Australia, which was really wonderful. I meant to get my autumn vlog up before I left, but things were pretty busy leading up to the trip, so I unfortunately didn't finish editing it in time. I'll probably end up posting that one sometime in the new year. It pains me to be so untimely, but it is what it is. But today I have a very special video about our Christmas festivities, which of course is very wrapped up in video games, as they are a very big part of my life. So I'm going to take you through the weeks leading up to Christmas, some of our very nerdy gifts, and the games I've been playing to celebrate the season. So like I said, the first half of December was very exciting for me because I was finally able to travel back home to see my family. Even though we couldn't be there for Christmas Day, I'm so happy we were there to celebrate the start of the season. Christmas in Australia is pretty different to how it is in the US. December is summertime for us, so our Christmases are really long days full of sunshine and barbecues and spending time outside. A far cry from your traditional white Christmases, but they are just as magical, and I wouldn't trade them for anything. While we were there, my family gave us some of our Christmas gifts early, which I thought I would share with you. So we'll start with the big one, which is the Stardew Valley board game. If you've seen some of my other videos, you might have caught on to the fact that I adore board games, and I get especially excited whenever they cross over with video games. And I love Stardew Valley, so I've been really wanting to play this one. It's a co-op game, which is my favourite kind, and you can even play it solo, which is awesome. If you're interested in seeing what it's all about and how it plays, I recommend checking out Tim Chuan's video, which I'll link below. He does a great job breaking down all the elements of the game and gives a pretty good overview of what to expect from it. Tony and I received a few other board games from my family, including 5 Minute Mystery and Sabotage. 5 Minute Mystery is a really fun and fast-paced game of deduction. Players work together to spot clues in location pictures, and the faster they can do this, the better chance they'll have at discovering the case's culprit before the timer runs out. Sabotage is pretty much what you'd expect from the name. It's a game in which each player runs a bubble tea shop. You spend your turns building up drinks and playing attack cards to sabotage your opponent's businesses. My sister also picked out some really cool manga for us. Witch Hat Atelier and The Detective Is Already Dead for me, and The Drifting Classroom for Tony. These were so thoughtful. I'd been talking about how I wanted to start some new manga, and these sound right up my alley, so I can't wait to dig into them. I got a lot of other thoughtful gifts that aren't really related to video games or nerd culture, for lack of a better term, but I loved all of them. I'm really grateful for all the gifts I received from my family, but more than that, I'm grateful I was able to spend time with them this Christmas, because I missed them all so much. So we got back to the US about a week and a half before Christmas, and even though we were short on time, we decided that we really wanted to get a real Christmas tree. It's extremely uncommon to have a real tree in Australia, so much so that I've never even seen one there before. So while we're still living in America, I really wanted to make the most of those kinds of traditions. Luckily, we found a tree farm set up right in front of our favourite retro game store, and they still had a decent supply. So we ended up choosing this beautiful noble fir. And of course, before heading home we stopped by that game store as well. Tony ended up grabbing Dragon Quest Swords on the Wii, which I believe is some sort of motion control spin-off RPG. I expect it's somewhat gimmicky, but it seems like a really fun Wii entry, so we'll see how it goes. And I decided to buy Elebits: The Adventures of Kai and Zero on Nintendo DS. This game had been sitting at the store for months, and every time I came in I'd kind of ogle at it and be on the fence of getting it. So I decided that day was the day, and it would make a nice Christmas present for myself. This is the sequel to the Elebits game on the Wii, though I believe it plays a little differently. I'm a sucker for a good DS game, so I'm really excited to try it out. So before we knew it, it was the day before Christmas Eve. We decided to head downtown to look at some retro game stores and have some fun in the city. This is as much snow as we got this Christmas, which is a bit of a bummer, but better than nothing, I guess. So after some warm drinks and general sightseeing, we arrived at the game store. We hadn't been here in a while, so it was cool to see what was new. I like this store a lot. As you can see, they've decorated really well and they usually have pretty fair prices on their stuff. We ended up getting 2 games here. The first one is pretty exciting because it's not only one of the Dreamcast launch titles, but also, technically, a Christmas game. And that is none other than Blue Stinger. Blue Stinger is a game that I've been wanting to play for a really long time, and it was actually only recently when Tony and I watched Dungeon Chill's new video that we realized it takes place during Christmas. It felt very serendipitous that we happened upon it that day, and what better time to buy it, right? I started playing it, and I've been having a lot of fun. It's definitely janky, and the automatic camera is enough to drive you mad, but there's a certain campiness to the game that makes it really entertaining.
Phew, tough girl. I like it, Janine.
Who the hell is Janine?
My kind of girl, so stay away from her.
So yeah, jankiness aside, I think Blue Stinger is a great little action adventure that is sure to get you into the Christmas spirit. We also picked up a game called Neverland Card Battles for the PSP. It appears to be some kind of tactical RPG with card-based combat. It doesn't have great reviews, but like I said, I just can't resist a card game. And on that note, our next stop was the board game store. They had tons of cool things here, including some expansions for some of my favourite games, like the Arkham Horror LCG and Mystic Vale. They also had this dungeon crawling game called Descent: Legends of the Dark, and at this point I was panicking a little because I had already gotten one for Tony for Christmas, and they were selling a pre-owned copy for half the retail price, which he was really close to buying. I don't know why this happens every year. But luckily, I was able to subtly discourage it, and we continued to browse some of their other games. So while we were there, we grabbed this little demo for the Unlock Escape games. We've played some of their full games before, but I was really curious to see what they threw together for this sampler. We also ended up succumbing to their Red Dragon Inn display and headed home with the first character set. We played it that night while enjoying some treats from the Chinatown Bakery, and it was really fun. The premise is that you are adventurers who have just come back from a dungeon and are kicking back at the local tavern. The goal of the game is, basically, to be the last person standing after everyone else has passed out drunk. It's very silly, but it is a lot of fun. Each character has a unique deck, and the writing on the cards is really funny. They've made tons of different character expansions and base game variants too. I think at the moment there are 60 different characters, which is kind of amazing. You can get some really funny back and forth plays between characters, and I think with a large group especially, this game has the potential to get really crazy. It's also got some really nice artwork, reminiscent of like late 90s cartoons or something. I'm a fan, and I'm really glad we picked this one up. Anyway, we spent the rest of the night playing games and watching Christmas movies, and when we woke up, it was Christmas Eve morning. So to celebrate the fact that it was almost Christmas, I decided to replay Turnabout Goodbyes, the last case in the first Ace Attorney game. Well, technically in the DS version this is the second to last case, but it was originally the finale of the game, and it is a good one, to put it lightly. This is the case that solidified my love for Ace Attorney. It's the case we learn about Prosecutor Edgeworth's tragic backstory and find out the reason Phoenix became a defense attorney. It's very emotional and also has a lot of big iconic moments for the series. Oh, and it takes place during Christmas Eve. So yeah, that was a really nice treat for me. I don't think I've replayed this case since beating the game 10 years ago, and man, it was nice to revisit it. If you didn't know, Ace Attorney is actually my third favourite video game series of all time. It's very close to my heart, so it was a really comforting game to play this Christmas Eve. And that brings us to Christmas Day. Naturally, Tony and I got each other a bunch of video game related gifts, so I thought it would be fun to share those with you. So first up for Tony, we have Battle Axe for Nintendo Switch. This is a top-down hack and slash with some absolutely stunning pixel graphics. It plays a bit like Gauntlet, which was a very pleasant surprise. It's an arcade-style game, so if you run out of lives you do have to go back to the beginning and replay old levels again, but it hasn't gotten too repetitive for us so far. It's actually been really fun to watch ourselves get better and better at clearing stages. It only has up to 2-player co-op, but for us that's kind of perfect. It's definitely one I'm looking forward to playing more of. I also got Tony Trine 5 for the PS5. I've never played Trine myself, but I've always been interested in it. It's a series of action-adventure puzzle games that tend to have really good co-op support. I know Tony's played some of the older ones with his siblings, and he speaks pretty highly of it, so I thought it would be another fun game to play together. And I got a really good deal on it too. And like I mentioned earlier, I also got Tony Descent Legends of the Dark. I'm really excited to play this one, but it is one of those more hardcore board games. A play session is estimated to take 3 to 4 hours, so we'll have to set some time aside for that in the future. The rest of the stuff I got for Tony was all from Nyokyo. First up, we have Romancing Saga 2 and Romancing Saga 3, both for the Super Famicom. Saga is one of Tony's favourite series, and I know Romancing Saga 3 especially is something he's wanted in his collection for a while. The one I purchased also came with a guidebook, which was a cool bonus. Next up, we have the Shining Force 2 Symphonic Suite CD. It is really hard to find Shining Force music CDs, so I was really excited when I stumbled upon this. Shining Force is kind of like Tony's Grandia 2, so I'm always on the lookout to find obscure collectibles for him to add to his collection. That said, the next thing I found was really weird. So here we have 3 volumes of the Shining Force manga. Now, it's a bit odd because while the logos scream Shining Force, the character designs raise questions.
Oh my god.
I know.
What is this? You found me like Shining Force smut?
No, I checked it.
Honestly, I'm not quite sure if these are official or fan books, but either way, I felt like I had to get them. And last but certainly not least, I also found Tony this booster box of Shining Force Gaiden trading cards. This is probably the coolest thing I've ever found on Nyokyo. It's 20 packs of 10 cards each, and it comes in this really cool box that has a pop-out display for when it was sold in stores. Tony said he wants to get a binder before opening too many, so this is all I can really show you right now. But yeah, he loved it, and I'm so happy I was able to find some cool Shining Force merch for him. So onto the stuff Tony picked out for me. First up, we have these Piplup and Trico Pokemon figurines, which might seem a little random, but if you've heard me talk about Explorers of Time, you might remember that in that game, I played as a Trico and my partner was a Piplup. So he got me these to go on my Explorers of Time display that I plan to make one day. I really want to do displays dedicated to each of my top 10 games, and Explorers of Time has a very solid spot on that list. If you want to know why, I'll link some videos below. So yeah, I very much appreciate these two. Next up, we have some stuff that Tony found on Yokyo. First is the Grandia 3 guidebook, which is really beautiful. It's quite a hefty book with almost 400 pages of maps, item data, monster data, and a lot of other good stuff. I love it. He also got me the Grandia Digital Museum for the Sega Saturn. This is a spin-off where I believe you go to dungeons to find and recover museum artifacts. And these are artifacts of a Grandia museum, so they have things like concept art, character portraits, and Grandia's minigames. I think this is a really cool release, and it's a shame that it never came to the West. So, you know I love Grandia as a series, as a whole, but Grandia 2 is really the big thing for me. It's my favourite game of all time, and it's the reason I love gaming, so Grandia 2 in particular is very special to me. Which is why I was really excited to open this final gift from Tony, which had the Korean PC version of Grandia 2, along with this really cool soundtrack release. Apparently this was part of the Korean limited edition of the game, which is fascinating because I had never seen it before. It has this really beautiful textured fabric case and a booklet inside with some character information and lyrics. Both of these things were really cool and such a wonderful surprise. So that was my 2023 Christmas. It's been a really busy but really wonderful season for me. The gift-giving side of Christmas is always a lot of fun, but by far, the thing I love most about the holidays is spending time with the people I love, and I am so grateful that I was able to do that this year. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video, and once again, I'm sorry for the big gap in uploads. For my next video, I'm planning on doing my annual overview of all the games I played throughout the year. I'm hoping to get that one out pretty soon, so stay tuned if that sounds interesting to you. But that's all for today. I hope you have a lovely day and a very happy new year. Bye!
Bird. Domingo!
Domingo!
We got a Domingo.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome.